Jack Ringenberg Media.
Hey guys, welcome back to College Life Unscripted. My name is Kayce, and today we are going to be talking about the transportation and parking here on Ball State campus. A lot of people that I know are mainly freshmen, so we usually park at the overflow lot or at the stadium, which is about a half a mile away from my dorm. I've only walked to the stadium once, and that was for a football game. Never doing that ever again. It was super hot, and I'm not doing it now because it's super cold. There's only one. So here on Ball State, we've got 4 bus loops. So there's the green loop, the red loop, the blue loop, and the purple loop. And the green loop is the only one that runs to the stadium in the overflow lot. But it's funny because a lot of kids usually just go to the stadium and then they get off at the stadium and then walk over to the overflow lot. Normally where I park my car so far back into the overflow lot that I'm just going to ride the bus over to the overflow lot because I'm lazy. One day I got on and the driver skipped the overflow lot and then skipped the other stop to get back onto the off-campus bus. So I just got off the bus and got on a different bus and then went back and got my car. I should have just walked from the stadium to the overflow, but it was so cold that I just wasn't going to do that. The red loop is the other loop that goes off of campus, but it only goes to Oakwood, which is where people do their practicums. Oakwood's just like a little school. I'm not really sure what it is, but I do know some people that go there for practicums. But yeah, I've been on the red loop to go from the library up to North Dining, so it stays on campus whenever I get on it. The blue loop, however, I've been on a few times because it stops right behind my dorm at Kinghorn, so I'll ride from Kinghorn to the bus stop right in front of the atrium. Sometimes, depending on how cold it is, 9 times out of 10 I just walk, but the blue loop's not bad. I've been on it, like I said, a few times, so I'll go a little bit off of campus. It's mainly for commuters, I think, who live not a mile off of campus, but maybe a fourth of a mile off of campus. I don't know. I think the furthest it goes, it does not go to Rex Street. I do know that because I read the road sign one day and I was like, that bus does not go there. So, and then the last loop is one of my favorite loops. It's the purple loop. So I've got a few classes in the Cooper Science building, and that is the furthest building away. I've talked about it once or twice. I really like Cooper Science. It's really nice, but it's so far away that I had a 9 a.m. class that I ended up dropping because I just wasn't I'm not walking at 8:30 in the morning to Cooper Science. But I would always miss the purple loop, so there was never I could never know whenever it was right behind my dorm because I'd get on it and it would take me right in front of Cooper Science because they got rid of TransLoc. And TransLoc, we used it here. I never really knew what it was, but I knew that it tracked the buses and it would show you basically where they were. Obviously, they got rid of it, I think, before the school year even started. So we were on campus and then they had gotten rid of it, and a lot of people are still mad about that. Very angry about it. Because there are some people who would like to know, am I going to be waiting at this bus stop for another 20 to 30 minutes or about 5 minutes? My favorite, though, is whenever you can see the bus. There was one day last week I got out of class, and I had gotten out of my Cooper Science class. I walked outside, and I looked down the road, and here was coming the purple loop. So I was like, I'm just going to stay here and wait for it. It'll drop me off right behind my dorm, so I'm just going to wait. And that made me the happiest I'd ever been. So that was good. But people need to learn, where these buses go, obviously, because, you can't... Every time I get on the purple loop, the guy is always like, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, Stu West, because I know where it goes, because I don't, know where it goes, but I've got a sense of direction. Some people will try to get on the purple loop, and he'll be like, where are you going? And they'll be like, oh, north. And then they're like, oh, we don't go to north. And they're like, well, why don't you go to north? Being mean to the bus driver, he doesn't control, or she doesn't control, where the bus goes. It's just if that bus runs that route, then that's where they go. One time somebody got on a green loop and they were like, oh, I thought this was the blue loop. I'd also like to point out the color of the loop is big in letters on top of the bus, so you can't miss it. It's on that display screen. So there's no way that you can miss that, especially with the green loops. My favorite is whenever it says green and then it says Oakwood. I try to skip those buses because that means that they go to Oakwood, and then that's like an extra 5 minutes on the bus that I don't want to sit there for. But if it happens and it happens, I just sit there and deal with it. But I love the green loop. It's one of my favorites. I mean, obviously, purple loop has got to be my second, and then blue, and then red, because I just never get on red. I mean, red goes up to north where I usually go, but if I don't have to go to north, then I'm not going to get on a red loop or a green loop. But if I want to if I want to go somewhere quick, I'll get on a purple or a blue loop because I know that I'll get there. I do know, however, the purple loop is like a 25-minute route. So like if it stops behind my dorm at 1:30, it'll be back at 1:55. But I'm not going to make it to class if I wait till 1:55 to get on the bus. So yeah. And then there's sometimes where I'm like, ooh, I could wait on the bus after I get out of class. And I'm just like, nah, I'm just not going to do that. So usually I'll just trek from Cooper Science to like North Dining. That was awful. It was an awful walk today, especially because it was super cold outside. So the Muncie City buses are like the MITS buses. And I actually don't mind the MITS buses. I did, however, get stuck on one day. So I got on, and I had remembered a friend from last year was teaching me how the buses worked. And it was me and my friend and then two of our other friends. And she was like, you tap on the yellow tape and they'll stop at the next stop and let you off. So the yellow tape actually is like, so you get onto the bus and you sit down and it's behind you. So you have to like completely turn around to see the tape. And I also got to mention the tape is it's supposed to be like bright yellow and it's brown because of how dirty it is, because not only do like Muncie Ball State students get on it, also regular Muncie civilians also get onto it. So there's probably 100 people on one bus on one day, and it's so gross. So that tape is like dirty brown, and I'm sure if you put a little bit of work into it, you could get the brown off, but that some people just don't want to put forth that effort, and that's fine. I get that. I would not want to stand on a bus for 3 hours and scrub a piece of tape anyway. But it's just like out of the way. Like you can't see it. I mean, obviously you can see it whenever you get on the bus because it's like, oh, there's a neon yellow line like running up, whatever. But then you sit down and you just don't think about it. That's what happened like whenever I got on the bus. I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, let me hit the tape, But you have to hit the tape to let the bus driver know, like, stop at this next stop, because they're not just going to read your mind. Well, I had missed tapping on the tape, and I missed my stop. So I ended up riding around Muncie for like 30 minutes. My mom actually called me because she can see my location. She was like, where are you? And I was like, oh, I'm behind McDonald's right now. She was like, well, how'd you get there? And I was like, don't worry about it. I didn't know how the bus stops worked. I just ended up getting off of the bus at North Dining and then crossed the street and got on a green loop bus because I was so impatient I wasn't going to wait for a green loop. But then I was like, I'm just going to get back on a green loop. I just remembered one time I was on a green loop, and this is so embarrassing. I'd gotten on, and the bus, all the seats were taken, so I had to stand, but it was so empty, like whenever I stood, that like I was falling over. And the bus driver, I think he thought this was going to be funny. He brake checked. So like right before he pulled into the loop to stop, he like brake checked. So I had fallen a little bit, and I was like, I'm getting off of this bus. So I got off the bus, walked across the street, and waited for another green loop. That green loop that I had gotten off of drove all the way around and came back, and I got back on it whenever it was jam-packed full. And I was like, well, it was the same bus driver, and he goes, didn't I just see you? And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It was so, oh my God, there was at least like 20 people on that bus, and I had fallen, and then it was like, I'm getting off, and I just got back on the same bus. That was really embarrassing. I never forget that. Sometimes I think about that, and I'm like, why did I, oh God. But they're not bad. There's some bus drivers where I recognize them that I love them so much. Now that one I got on and that she skipped the bus stop, I ended up getting off of her bus and getting onto another bus. So whenever you get on like at North Dining, you have to ride all the way around campus. So it'll stop at North, and then it'll stop right in front of like the David Letterman building, and then stop again in front of the atrium. And then stop again, like right behind the Burkhart building, I think it is, or like in that general area. And then it'll pull through into the student center, like behind the student center, and stop right there. and then it'll turn around and come back the other way, and it'll stop right behind like Sursa. There's like a parking garage right behind Sursa, so it'll stop right there, and then it goes through the scramble light and stops right in front of Bracken, and then you go down the road more, and then it stops like right by the cat building, and then it goes through another stoplight, and then it stops on the opposite side of North Dining. And I had rode the whole bus only to be the only person to get off at the overflow lot, again because I wasn't getting off at the stadium, and the guy told me that he was going to stop at the overflow lot, so I was like, okay. I just was like, I was so worried that he wasn't going to stop, even though I had asked, you stop at the overflow, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. He kept looking in the mirror to make sure that I was still there. But I was like, why did I get on at North Dining? I should have just waited to get on. But, I mean, I needed to go home. Like, I was like, I just need my car. Like, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I just need my car. At that point, I just contemplated walking at that moment. One specific thing I do want to talk about. Last semester, we had a football game during the week. And we had to move our cars from the overflow lot to, it's not the state fairgrounds, but it's like the Muncie City Fairgrounds. So it's the Delaware County Fairgrounds. And it was kind of organized whenever you got there to park. I'll give them that. But I had gotten there early, like in the daylight. There was barely anybody there. Like I had parked my car pretty deep into the fairgrounds. Well, there were some other people who didn't do that. They waited a little bit longer. So like they offered buses that would take you from the fairgrounds, and they would drop you off at North Dining. Like that bus would only stop at North Dining. It wouldn't stop at any other stop, and then it would go back to the fairgrounds to pick up more people. Well, they had sent like that day like 3 Green Loop buses to the fairgrounds, and left like 1 or 2 on campus. Like I'm not 100% positive how many Green Loop buses run on campus at a given moment. I know it's at max 2, maybe 3, but like I'd say we need like 4 running at once, because those buses 9 times out of 10 are crammed full, especially now with it being like February, like the winter months. Like it's cold. Like kids are not going to want to walk from like from TC all the way down to North Dining. Like nobody's going to want to do that. I didn't do that. I walked from Cooper and got on a bus, and I was like, I'm not doing this because it's too cold. But a lot, like, it's just more of an organized thing. Like things need to be more organized before they happen, especially with that game that happened that day, I feel like. And especially a lot of miscommunication goes on between people who get on the bus and the bus drivers. Like I ask questions whenever I get on. I'm like, hey, you go here, right? And then if they're like, no, I'm like, okay, thanks. And then I get off. Again, people being mean to bus drivers, I don't understand. They're like, well, why don't you go here? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I just work here. Like, I understand getting frustrated because one bus doesn't go a specific way, but you need to be nice to your bus drivers because they are doing their best, and they got to deal with that probably every single time they stop. Like, why don't you go here? Why don't you go there? Like, I don't know. I would like to point out, though, at the beginning of the year, I got added into, like, a Snapchat group chat with a bunch of my now friends, and I got, like, the bus loop route picture from somebody in that group chat. And, like, it's not hard to find because there's a QR code on every single bus stop sign. So if you go to a bus stop and there's a sign that says, like, what buses stop at those stops. So there's, like, right out of Bracken Library, there's a bus stop, and it'll say green, red, and purple. And then there's a QR code on that sign, and you can scan it, and it'll bring up the picture of, like, the routes of the bus. Or if you're just lucky enough and you already have that screenshot, sometimes I'll pull it up even. But, I mean, that's just me. But if you ever get, like, confused, like, just scan it, or you can even look it up. Ball State Bus Route Loop, whatever, you know. You can always do that. Like, it's not... I know you have the resources. You can use them to your advantage. Or, you know, maybe a teacher could look it up for you or something. And honestly, just depends on how far, like, you kind of want to go. But we've also been here for a whole semester, so I'd assume that some people already know how they run. There are a few people I know that they're like, oh, I didn't know that bus went there. And I was like, oh, well, you do now. Like, you got to learn somehow. And that's what I did with, like, especially the MITS bus, like, getting onto it and then getting stuck on it. Like, I didn't expect to do that. Like, it just happened. But I'm grateful that the MITS buses do go through campus, though, because there was a few that I was like, I didn't know that they went through campus. And everybody's like, I'm never getting on a MITS bus. They're so scary. Like, how do you think I feel about getting onto a green loop? Like, it's also scary. Yes, you can get stuck on a MITS bus, and yes, it sucks. But, like, you gotta get on and you gotta learn at some point. Like, that's what I did. I was like, okay, I want her to know that I'm stopping at the stadium, so I'm gonna hit the button now to let her know, instead of hitting it right before she stops, which is what I tried to do, but then I was like, never mind, I'm just not going to. She had given me like a look in the mirror that was like, don't hit that button now, and I was like, okay. But the MITS buses, 9 times out of 10, whenever I get on them, they're completely empty. Like, there's nobody on them, like, at all. Oh my gosh, I remember one time I got on with an old friend of mine, and I don't know what they do, but whenever they park and they deflate like air out of the bus, she had done it in the back just at the same time that he was getting onto the bus, so he got on and fell, and I was like, oh my god, like, I was embarrassed because he fell on some other girl, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I felt so bad. And then I was like, you have to get up, like, there's you can't, you have to get up now. He was like, I'm trying, and I was like, not hard enough, get up. Like, it was so embarrassing. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I felt so bad. And she was like, oh, it's fine. Like, I get it. And she was trying not to laugh. And I was just like, girl, you can laugh. Like, it's fine. Like, I was laughing and, like, so embarrassed at the same time. I was like, please laugh. I was like, oh, my gosh. It was just, like, what do you do in that moment? Like, like, somebody fell on somebody else. Like, do you help them or do you laugh at them or do you, like, get up now? Like, I didn't know what to do. So I was just like, please get up. I was like, please get up off the floor. It was so bad. Oh my gosh. But other than the buses, Green Loop. So none of the buses run on, not only the Green Loop, but none of the buses run on Saturday. And then Green Loops usually run from like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., I think. Monday through Thursday, they run from like 7 to 11. Friday, they stop at like 8. And then Saturday, none of the buses run. And then Sunday, Green Loop runs from 5 to 11, which is fine. But because kids like come home on the weekend, so they come back later, so they start up later. But usually whenever I come back on Sunday, I wait until after 11 to move my car because I can use Charlie's charter, which I love Charlie's charter. Give me 1 second and I'll get to Charlie's charter. But none of the buses running on Saturday kind of like makes me angry because there's some people that are like, oh, I need my car now. And I'm just like, well, you better walk to go get it because I'm not taking you to go get it. But I'm usually nice enough. I'll go take people to go get their cars. I had a friend one day and I was laying in bed still and they had called me and they were like, hey, can you take me to get my car? And I was like, are you kidding me? And they were like, it's 2 p.m. And I was like, yeah, I guess. So, like, I went and took them. But all the parking is free on Saturday and Sunday. Like, all the parking ends at 5 p.m. Friday. So you don't have to have a permit after 5 p.m. on Friday, or you have to pay for a parking pass in the parking garages or whatever. So I'll move my car to the parking garage in front of Stu, and I'll park there over the weekend because it's not like I go anywhere over the weekend, but it's just nice to have my car right there. And sometimes you go in there and there's nowhere to park. Can't park anywhere. You can't, like, nothing. I remember one of the first weekends, me and my roommate and her boyfriend all went out, and we had left and then came back, and she pays to park in the parking garage. Well, she paid. And she could not find a single spot anywhere. Like, nowhere. Like, not even on the 4th floor of the parking garage. She was so mad. And then one of my friends was like, you pay to park here, right? And then she was like, yeah. So then he got in and moved his car for her to have his spot. And I was like, that was really nice of him. But yeah. And then, but it's so expensive to pay to park. Not only for like kids, like freshmen, like I paid $100 to park at the stadium, which is nice. Like I have somewhere to keep my car, whatever. But it's also like half a mile away. Like I'm not walking that. So 9 times out of 10, I'll just try and ask somebody else for a ride. Somebody who parks on campus. like I'm probably going to buy a commuter pass for next year because I'm not going to live here. I'm not going to live on campus next year, but I'm thinking about buying a commuter pass just because of like cold months like this. I'm not walking from like wherever I'm living to teacher's college. Like I'm not going to do that. That's too far of a walk in my opinion. Also because if it's 12 degrees outside, I'm not walking that, especially at like 10 or 11 in the morning. Not going to happen. So the green loop I said ends at 8 on Friday. So, okay, I get that. Like, give them, like, an extended weekend because they have to come back at 5 p.m. on Sunday. But at the same time, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they don't run on Saturday anyway. So, again, like I said, be nice to your bus drivers. But I don't want to go get my car at 7:30 p.m. on a Friday. I want to wait until, like, 9 or whatever. Like, I don't understand why the green loop ends so early. It's kind of dumb, I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, like, it runs to, like, 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, but it won't run to 11 p.m. on a Friday. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I would understand if it went 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, and then 5 to 11 p.m. on Sunday. I don't understand why it only goes till 8 on Friday. But I understand, like, the extended weekend for the bus drivers, quote unquote extended. It's not actually extended, just a longer weekend because they have to come in on 5 on Sunday. But there's usually only like 2 green loops that run on Sunday anyway, or like 2 or 3. So it's only like 2 or 3 bus drivers. But then they'll like swap out bus drivers. I don't know if anybody else has been on a bus whenever they swap out bus drivers, but there was one time they swapped out bus drivers while I was on the blue loop, and I waited for like 10 minutes for another bus driver, and I was like, I should just get off and walk at this point. Okay, finally, was Charlie's Charter. Okay, Charlie's Charter is meant for, like, if you feel like you're in a dangerous situation, you call Charlie's Charter and they will come pick you up if you're on campus. I think the farthest they go is the Student Center or the Overflow Lot, or, like, as long as you're on campus, the main driver I know is Jason. I love Jason. He is so nice. He's so funny. There's also I heard that there was another driver that they just hired. I don't know what his name is, but then there's another driver. She's really nice. She's also super funny. She's really sweet, you know. But Jason is, like, the main one that a lot of people know of. And me and him and my friends, like, we all, like, make jokes with each other. I haven't been on Charlie's Charter in a while, but Jason's always been, like, super nice, like, super, you know, like, funny. Like, he always cracks jokes. He, you know, like, we're comfortable with Jason, you know. And there are some people that, like, call Jason or they get on the Charlie's Charter and they're, like, really mean to him. And it kind of makes me angry because he is just trying his best to fit in with us. Because, again, the same with the bus drivers on, like, the green loops or the red loops. They have to drive us around. Like, they have to put up with us. They didn't ask to put up with a bunch of college kids. I mean, well, obviously they did. They work here. But, like, rude college students who take advantage of it. Jason, I saw this on Yik Yak, actually. They were like, why is the guy who drives Charlie's Charter so weird? And I was like, I fought for my life in those comments, by the way. I was like, why do y'all gotta be hating on Jason so much? He is just trying his best. He's doing his job. Like, he applied to drive on Ball State campus. I don't know why you would do that. But, like, he applied to work here. Like, he, you know, this is what he does, and he needs more credit for it, in my opinion. Charlie's Charter drivers specifically need a lot more credit for the things that they do. Because Jason, one day we got on and he bought a headset to answer phone calls. That way he doesn't have to pick up the phone anymore, which is cool, by the way. But he went out of his way to go buy that for himself. None of the other drivers have that. Only Jason has it. He paid for it with his own money. Like, we told him, we're like, Jason, you need to get reimbursed for that. Like, that should be something, you know, and they should buy it for the other drivers because it's hands-free calling. Like, he just presses a button and he's like, hey, like, this is Charlie's Charter. Like, where are you? But I think people are just really mean about it. But, like, Jason just needs more credit for, like, the things that he does. Like, he's just trying to fit in. He's trying to make jokes. Like, he's trying to like not make the ride so uncomfortable, because people just get in and they're like, I'm going to Botswana. And he's like, where? Like, where are you going? How many people? And then they're like, 2. Speak up. Like, he can't hear you whenever he's sitting all the way in the back of the van. I remember one time we got on, me and 2 of my other friends, and then like a bunch of random people got on, and they were like, yeah, we're going to Stew East. There's 3 of us. Like, I ended up saying, they're going to Stew East, and there's 3 of them, Jason. Like, go. And it was just crazy. But again, people just need to be nicer to Jason. I've never seen anybody treat like the other 2 drivers differently. Well, I've never been. I haven't been in Charlie's Chart in a while, and then also I haven't seen how people treat the new driver, but I know that they treat the woman driver very nice. I don't know why. I think it's just because Jason tries harder, I guess. I don't want to put it that way, because I know that they're trying their best. Like, that's what they do. But he's like talking a lot more. The other driver doesn't talk a lot. She doesn't say a lot, but she's really nice whenever she does. I remember one time I was like, girl, you deserve a little bit more than what you get. And she's like, yeah, I'm aware. We were like, oh, no, I usually call Jason or Charlie's Charter, I guess in general, whenever I go move my car later to the overflow lot. And then like I'll call him like, hey, Jason, come get me. But there was one time I called him, and it took like 20 minutes. I waited for 20 minutes, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to wait 2 more minutes, and if he doesn't get here, then I'm going to leave. Which I waited 2 more minutes, and he didn't get there. I ended up walking, and then he drove past me like 5 minutes later. So if I would have waited just an extra 5 minutes, it's just I have no patience, so I just left. But I think that's the second time I've called him and then like left, and I feel so bad. There was one time I waited on him for like 20 minutes, and I was like, I'm not going to leave until he gets here. That way I can just tell him to go. Well, then he got there, and I was like, Jason, I don't need a ride anymore. And he's like, all right, well, that's fine. I'm waiting on somebody else. And I was like, okay. Like, fine by me. I just wanted to tell you, like, I would have felt bad if I would have just left. Because one of my friends was like, you're still here? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I'll just take you back to your dorm. And I was like, okay. All the drivers are fun. Like, they're nice people. Like, you just have to be nice. You just have to talk to them, like, understand. Like, don't be rude. Don't be, like, hateful. Well, why don't you go here? Well, I don't know, man. I just, like, I would just look at the person that would say that and just be like, I just work here. Like, I don't pick where I go. Like, if I don't know. I think they can pick what route they want to take. But I usually see the same drivers doing the green loop. There's always the same guy doing the purple loop. Always the same people doing the blue loop. So I don't see them change up very often. But I figured if they stay with one loop, then they'll just stay with that loop. That has been today's episode of College Life Unscripted. If you like today's episode, please subscribe and consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I actually just learned that Apple Podcast, they have different pictures. I did not know that. I mainly listen on Spotify. But yeah, if you guys enjoy, please subscribe and leave a review. So yeah, bye guys.
College Life Unscripted is a production of Jack Ringenberg Media. This episode was produced by Jack Ringenberg and Kayce May. For more Jack Ringenberg content, visit us online at jackringenberg.com. The views and opinions in this episode belong to the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Jack Ringenberg Media, Jack Ringenberg, or Ball State University.